Hello everyone, my name's FlareBlitzed here, and welcome to a really special video. We're exploring the weird, wonderful, wacky, and charms of the Witch's House in this entry of RPG Horror Memories. A series that explores what I believe are some of the most memorable games made in RPG Maker or Wolf RPG Editor. We'll also be covering over the Diary of Alina from time to time, as some of that's also relevant to the game. If you do like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already for updates on future videos like this one, and be sure to leave a comment down below regarding anything at all on this video and put suggestions down for video ideas in the future. Stick around until the end, as I've got an announcement to make regarding the next game in this series. Without further ado, let us explore the Witch's House. You begin the game in a forest with a single path, nothing odd or at all creepy about this, wink wink. Though a cat that talks is the only thing slightly strange about this. It follows you around in this game like a predator does. Each section of the game going from the ground floor to the first floor, then to the second, along with the third and finally the bedroom are all fairly compact size areas. This makes exploring a little limited, but really friendly to players who've just started playing RPG Maker games. The environment that the Witch's House is in doesn't make sense if it had a gigantic outside scene, as we're in a house not wiggling through an endless sea of trees. There's something for everyone in the Witch's House, from exploring / adventuring to puzzles that aren't too hard to solve, along with startling jump scares that catch you off guard, then a nice variety of ways in which Viola Alina can meet her demise. A lot of the puzzles within the Witch's House have hints in close proximity, or the object itself in question is used in the same area that you picked it up. Each section of the game next off are locked off in a linear way, so you're required to solve all the puzzles first in the area you are in before proceeding through. The first section of the ground floor as soon as you enter the house is a prime example. You can't go through the second left door past the chain scissors until you've acquired the teddy bear, cut it off its limbs, place it in the bear basket, and escaped death from the bigger bear. From there you have the dining room, with which you are presented with a skull bowl filled with poison, and the kitchen just in the room after, along with a passage back to the entrance. You can't proceed through the kitchen door that leads to a staircase until you solve how to unlock the door itself, give the maid the limbs, place the key into the skull bowl, and you can proceed through. The first floor presents us with a butterfly to save, with a catch if we don't replace it with something else. Acquire the rope first in the spider room, then proceed to the library to give the invisible person the rope, receive a book of death, go to the room opposite of the library, then place the book in the bookshelf. Oh yes, and avoid death from the skull that appears. Go back into the same room, don't worry the skull's disappeared, and pick up the butterfly model. Go back into the spider room, pick up the butterfly, and put in place the model butterfly, and you can proceed to the next floor. Be careful of the room past the blood. Flying daggers will approach you from front and back. If you stick to the left side and run, you'll have the highest probability of surviving. Find a friendly frog in the left room, take it down to the bottom of the previous room, activate a switch, then you'll be presented in the mirror room. Make each side the exact opposite of one another and you can proceed. Be sure to take your pet frog with you afterwards. I won't go into any more depth here about the puzzles, because this seems more like a walkthrough rather than talking about the puzzles in general. At first, of course, you don't know exactly what to do, but if you can't fathom out what to do, look in the other rooms in the same area and see if you can find any clues. The music box being a good example, the notice tells you about 12. In another room is a set of cards, maybe hinting you that the 12 is the queen, and you can pick up the queen key in the same area and use it on the music box. Found them logical throughout the game. There are three main characters along with Viola's father and Alina's parents that reside in the Witch's House. The parents are named along with Viola as the protagonist, Alina being the secondary antagonist and a protagonist if you're aware of the Diary of Alina, as well as the Black Cat being the main antagonist of the story, otherwise known as the Demon. We'll talk about each character one by one, starting off with Viola. We don't know much about Viola until you explore the no save option of going through the game, where we find a differently written out version of Alina's diary, where she talks about Viola being a trusting, kind person who was surprised when body swapping with Alina. I mean, I think anybody would be surprised if their conscious knowledge and memories were transferred to the body of another. Then Alina speaks of Viola's father as someone who Alina herself is jealous of, as she herself didn't have a loving father, being so loved by those around her, something Alina desperately wanted. Though by all of this, Viola was foolish enough to accept Alina's trust, which was needed for Alina and Viola to swipe bodies, though Viola herself wouldn't have known at the time that Alina was a witch. Viola outside of the game, I would believe, would be an ordinary outdoor adventurous girl with blonde hair, green eyes and a white dress, who stumbled upon the house and before us by luck. Well, luck for Alina anyways, not for Viola. She is also spoken about in more depth inside the Diary of Alina, but we'll get to that in a little while. Next we have Alina. Alina, I would say, is the main character in the entire story arc in both the Diary of Alina and the Witch's House, the one who we've played as all along within the game. If you look past the fact that she is a witch, a past self before becoming a witch, she is an ordinary girl, just like Viola is. Mentioned throughout the diaries in the entire game, there are two main subjects in most of them. She is ill and had parents who neglected her, both enhancing the negative emotional state of Alina. There is one diary entry that you can find along the second red corridor that you can only access if you don't read the sign previously, telling about Alina meeting a demon that devoured her dead parents. From this point, the demon promised Alina a way to cure her illness if more people are to be sacrificed to the house. Though obviously we know the actual outcome of this, not the curing way mentioned in the diary entries, but Alina finding a way to swipe bodies instead of curing her own one. Alina, in her past life before the events of a witch's house, was a shy girl, one who loved her parents dearly and desperately wanted her parents' affection. Closed off from society due to her appearance, along with her lifelong illness being the cause of her shut-in status, not by choice of Alina but of her parents. You can cover up any scars with bandages and clothing, but for the face there wasn't anything for her. Alina is definitely a character that some of you who are watching can feel empathy towards her, being born with something that you probably never wanted. Along with that, it's a really unfortunate twist of events that I can only offer my deepest apologies for. Having parents that didn't show their love for you that you wanted. Alina's mother did show affection for her at the start before the events of the witch's house transpired, but that love I think faded away over time, along with her father never wanting to show affection in the first place. Terrible, terrible parents. Next up is our lovely feline friend, the Black Cat / Demon, as previously mentioned, the antagonist of the game, and most definitely the orchestrator of everything bad that has happened, and maybe it was possibly the cause behind Alina's illness in the first place. Throughout most of the game, the Black Cat was our saviour from all of those times we died to a skeleton, a flying dagger, or a gigantic bear, who knows. The last three characters we know next to nothing about. Viola's father is apparent only at the end of the game, whether he had the knife or not. From little shown in the game, we can tell he's a caring father. Searching for his daughter out in the forest is proof enough, let alone telling Viola Alina to stand back while he shoots the legless girl. No. Now isn't the time to cry, Flare, you can do this. Other than he's a father and gives great affection to his daughter, the endings in the letter in two halves were the only time we saw him. Alina's parents are the only people mentioned that we've never seen in the game, but are very influential people within the story of both the Diary of Alina and the Witch's House. Ignorance from the father throughout the entire journey, along with the mother not showing her affection towards Alina as time transpired, resulted in deathly consequences in the end for both of them. That explores the basics, I believe, with all 6 characters mentioned in the game. There are a few other characters, including Alina's friends, that she used as sacrifices for the demon, but they're mainly referenced within the Diary of Alina. Oh, and speaking of that, a lot of the story behind the Witch's House isn't actually in the game, but within a novel written by Fummy themselves and translated in English by the person called The Diary of Alina. We won't be going through all of this as it would take all day to try and decipher everything. Link to the diary is found in the description. I'm not lazy, but there are 223 pages of the diary. We'll talk only very briefly about this that's found in the game. There are also mangas of the game too, but we're avoiding those altogether as a topic for another time, another place, another date. Looking throughout the entire diary that Alina wrote, there are a few things we can pull from there that's relevant for the Witch's House. Alina has had a lifelong illness ever since she was born. With her, there's no known way of being able to cure her symptoms, ranging from inflammation in joints to skin inflammations to liquid substance discharging from her eyes, unknown if it was blood or mucus, all affecting her overall appearance. Frail, pale, weak looking, a few of the other things above. Alongside this, heavy wheezing and low body temperature was also apparent. As far as medicines, nothing could purge the illness itself, but only slow it down, as with many cancers and diseases we know about today, they can't be cured at this point in time, Alina referring her skin as reptile-like sore. Her illness is one major topic in itself. The next big thing we can pull are Alina's relationships with her parents, with her mother beginning being affectionate to Alina, along with her father never making contact with Alina at all, either due to being shy to do so as the mother mentions, or having no desire at all to communicate with her. As time passes by, events slowly became worse to the point where Alina stabbed the pair of them, and allowed the demon to eat them up. This part of the story is shown in both the diary entries in the game, and mainly on the top floor in the jail room, where mother didn't love her, and father didn't notice her. Second last being is the story between Alina and the demon, which we know in the game to be a pact made for Alina to offer bodies to the demon, so it grants Alina's wish for her body to be cured. The starting point of them acquainting was whenever Alina was allowed outside in the distant past. At that point in time, it looked like, from Alina's perspective, it was just an ordinary black cat, with no otherworldly powers to grant wishes like curing diseases and cancer and so on. A creature with which Alina hugged and loved dearly, something that would give back affection with which her parents didn't give back. The pact, I believe, was fulfilled when Alina swiped bodies with Viola. It didn't matter which body Alina was in, the demon would know the spirit that resides inside. Each chapter in the Diary of Alina is summed up with a short quote in the game. A quote found in the scatter pages, with chapter 2 for example, starting with a quote, "My father and my mother didn't love me, so I X'd them. I've been in this house ever since." That's a small quote that sums up the entire chapter. Alina, throughout the rest of the diary, from late chapter 2 to the end of Begin, was filled with other heavy, dark, grotesque events, including Alina's friends who were devoured by the house. More accurately, the demon. That's the heaviest topic out of the way. Next we have the grimmest topic of the video. Horror games couldn't be complete without a few different ways to meet your demise. While they aren't necessary to make an invigorating story, having a variety of deaths in a game does add a bit of a darkened twist to it, seeing the character you're controlling becoming blood, dust, nothing, whatever the outcome is afterwards. The Witch's house isn't lacking when it comes to death, with the first one occurring almost immediately after you enter the house. Yes, the first room you enter in has a rather flat way of ending you via stepping in a pool of blood right in front of you, causing the walls to flatten you. The gigantic bear that spawns right after you put the limbless bear into the basket is the next one. Unlike normal bears that would normally eat you, this fluffy monstrosity flattens you similarly to the other death encounter. Don't cut off the limbs of its baby. If you successfully escape the bear, you come across the dining room with a skull bowl with liquid in it. Poison to be exact. And if you drink it, then the most obvious outcome occurs. You die from it. This one, unlike the previous two deaths, is more predictable to know the outcome of. Just after the dining room, you have the kitchen. In there, an invisible person is chopping up food who requires an extra pair of hands to help out, though the hams themselves would have to directly come from our own precious body. Proceeding through with this grants a rather handy death. Stupid pun, I know. Offer up the teddy bear limbs instead to proceed through. After unlocking the kitchen door leading upstairs, you find a corridor with 4 other doors. The nearest one leading to a web-filled room with a gigantic spider lurking about. In this case, you always need a plan installed. If the spider is colorblind, could I replace the captured butterfly with a replica of it? If you don't, you'll be the next snack of a spider, and most likely the butterfly will also be eaten in the process. After giving the rope to the librarian, you are rewarded with the Book of Death. Now I hope I'm not the only one here, but when I first came across this, I thought that this book held information on how to achieve death in every kind of way. Reading could be deathly boring, but it won't bleed your eyes out unless you read this book in particular. Place that book in the bookshelf and you'll find another means of death if you don't escape it. I mean a skull on a rampage to kill you. Either it hates you for bringing that book to the room, or it's released from its cabinet because the book is presented in the room. Who knows? Beyond releasing the butterfly, proceed through the staircase and you'll find a red corridor that consists of flying daggers. The only thing going for these contraptions is instantaneous death. Running straight isn't an option as the first knife appears in the middle. Going to the left is the best option to avoid, as this is the one that spawns last. There are two different ways to die in this section of the game, but only one of them is available at this point in time. Interact with a narrow bridge and try to walk across it, resulting in the bridge breaking and you becoming the prey of gravity. Like the poison death, this one before interacting with it had death written all over it. Luckily the switch can be pressed with the help of a friendly reptilian that probably weighs as much as a hand does. The other way of dying in this section occurs after you push the frog through the door and interact with a node that was originally there. Never tread back to where you originally find your friends after betraying them, or something like this could happen to you, like the death in the kitchen. This death was really handy. Okay, you can stop that now, Flare. Before this death, however, you need to traverse through another red corridor, but this time with a twist when it comes to the flying dagger in here. The twist being the notice just by a scattered page of Alina's diary the room previous. Reading it actually enables those effects to occur in an entirely paranormal sort of way. Knowledge is power, yes, but knowledge is also a gateway to your doom. So if at any point you are distracted, you'll meet a rocky death via boulder from the heavens. How many other Violas have come in this locked room? What made this room all bloody in the first place? Maybe it was Alina's friends that died in here. God knows. Past the corridor of distraction, you'll find another door that has a suspicious character that is on the other side. Going through it straight away without feeding our frog friend to it will mean we're the snack to the snake. Or if you examine the door and push the frog through, our newfound slithery enemy will go away, most likely into the fish on the wall. Though, before proceeding forward into the game, go back into the same room just after you see the ghost frog for a fun surprise. Go up the stairs to find a set of mouths you can walk in, but make sure to read the notice and grasp the scenario carefully before proceeding through. There are a few mouths to open, but none of them has only one of two eyes open. Proceed through any of the available ones shall be granted with salvation. I mean a gruesome end. Spikes, oh, how classical you are as a trap. Proceed through the hidden mouth to continue through the game. In the sound rooms, there are 3 different deaths in total, with one of them having 2 variations. The piano straight up ahead requires a music sheet, but doesn't need to be played, though you could play it to see what happens. With or without a music sheet, you'll be munch material for the piano. Left side you'll find a music box that you can wind up and play, though without a key, a certain guard becomes unhappy, and shoots you if you try to save your progress. Last one is a painting figure. Read the book on eye colours near the piano first. From left to right of the paintings, examine the sheet second to the left and the woman from the painting comes out. If you don't seal the painting, you'll be sealed within your own painting instead. I always wanted to get a painting myself, minus the factor that my own spirit and body is inside the painting as well. You can't singe yourself by putting your hands in the stove, but you can meet another 2 deaths after examining the lady statue after the piano room. The first one is to do with where you return the golden chopsticks to. The correct answer is ribs, but select any of the other options will find the skeleton wanting revenge on you via flying dagger. How many of these daggers are we going to be faced with? The other death we can find happens if we don't get up the fireplace fast enough to return back to the piano room, and the demise you receive if the time gets to 0. Yep, you guessed it, it's a flying dagger. Maybe a montage of these is required for the witch's house at this point. Getting to the tree, you'll find in this area 7 different ways to die. The most amount any area has to offer, but for the moment only one of them is accessible. After talking to the yellow flowers, then 2, and so on for more things you perform. First one involves the clock in the dining room. Just interact with the clock and it'll get so excited that it loses control of 2 of its 4 legs and squash you. Second involves the white flower in the garden. If you don't pluck it and choose one of the other options, you'll find that this plant is either just defending itself or is a carnivorous plant that wants something to eat? If you don't know, then we don't know. Either way, a lovely game over screen is presented for us. Third death happens after you've collected all the skulls and placed them correctly. A skull spawns just after the pot breaks, and obviously like the other one in the library, if it catches you, you'll now become only bone matter like your killer is. A little later, you meet another skull just after you clean the red shoes in the water. Same process, but if you go towards the room with all the skulls in, another one will spawn from the right side as well as the left side. Boned. The fourth death occurs when interacting with the tadpoles. You can interact with them twice before they'll kill you. Vengeance can be something bittersweet and delivered, and when you interact with them the third time, they'll drown you for killing your father, the frog we sacrificed to the snake earlier. I'm sorry, tadpoles, but it was either the both of us or just the frog. Fifth death takes place in a room filled with poison mist and fluorine. If you attempt to go through the fluorine without clear shoes, you'll be dematerialized, and the same thing will happen if you stay in a room for too long, indicated by the timer. No doubt this was one of the traps put in place by Viola. Sixth wave, your doom is within the dark maze. Part of the way through, you can look under the table leftmost in the maze, and you'll find a wristwatch. Take it and simply walk right of what I believe is the most gruesome death out of all of them in the game. You hanging in there, Lena? Don't worry, I'll get your parents for you. Before walking right though, have a look on your menu and see the sprite of Viola's change. Some smile she puts on. After the previous 6 ways are evaded, you come to a room filled with suspicious medicine. Obtain the bottle and dull part, and you'll be squished by eyes if you don't get out of the room fast enough. Last death in the entire game is obviously the climatic chase between Alina and the legless Viola, and if Viola catches you, well, the jump scare will tell you otherwise that you failed to outrun someone who can't actually run. All in all, these deaths are gruesome and fantastic. In-game that is, I'm not sadistic, okay? Adding a horror layer to the game that when you encounter for the first time will spook you out. 10 out of 10. Now finally moving on to... There are 3 different endings with which 2 of them can be performed a little differently if you don't interact with a black cat at all, also known as not saving your progress at all during the game, aside going down the distraction corridor and saving at that cat which can be performed. The no save route shovels into more of the lore in the witch's house, with the final die repeats at the end having different info written in. Realistically, combining the no save route and the true ending, that is the most canonical set of events to transpire. Before we talk about the true ending, we'll discuss the normal ending first. Both the normal and true endings have exactly the same requirements, except during the chase scene between Alina and Viola. In this point in time, the house has returned to normal. But for now, we just go to the entrance. We walk down and use the bottle on the unbreakable thorns to make way for our escape. Though, as we walk down, our legless pursuer catches up to us. At this point in time, Viola's father comes along and shoots down what remains of the legless girl. If you acquired the normal ending first before the true one, then this wouldn't be emotional at all. Both Viola's father and Alina walks off. Credits roll, Black Cat appears and disappears, end of game. The true ending involves collecting Alina's knife, which can only be acquired during the chase scene, and it's the cupboard which can only be opened when the house returns to normal. Pick up the knife and escape exactly the same as you did in the normal ending, and well, I'll let you watch and see this dramatic, emotional scene. For some of you, including myself, this was heartbreaking. I promised I wouldn't cry at the start of recording this video. I told myself to hold it together. Viola's father killed her own daughter spiritually, without realising. My poor heart. I'm gonna have to walk away from the mic for a minute here. The last but least eventful ending out of them all doesn't require a climatic chase scene at the end to happen, nor solving the puzzles in the game, or walking into the house at all, and most importantly, you do not move at all, and have the game active at all times for 1 whole hour. If this is the ending you require before playing the game at all, it wouldn't make sense at all, but this essentially explains that if you wait long enough, the witch's magic will die off, and the vines will wither, indicating the condition with which Viola is in now. And that wraps up this video. I did plan for these videos to be more condensed, and if it wasn't for the diary of Alina, I'm certain this video would have been cut by half in length. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to leave a like and comment down below on what your most memorable moment was in the witch's house. In the description below and on screen now is a link to a straw poll where you can vote for either Eve, Blank Dream, The Crooked Man, Paranormal Syndrome, or The Mad Father as the next game in RPG Horror Memories. If I've missed anything out at all for The Witch's House, please leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hope you have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves.